Why there, geezers, it's Jules here from FGS, also known as the Future Game Show. That was meant to be a vampire, by the way, Blair. I'm gonna suck. Anyway, now here's the thing. When it comes to, I don't know, maybe leaving an explosive in your packed lunch to stop the midday fridge thief from taking my chip and gravy sandwiches, sometimes surprises aren't always that nice. But when it comes to video games, secrets and hidden surprises like that, well, they're all the bloody rage. Especially when those secrets are entire modes that offer something completely outside the regular gameplay loop, which is exactly what we're here to talk about today. As I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are 10 secret video game modes you need to play. Number 10. Tekken Ball, Tekken 3. Tekken 3, the moment that the fighting video game franchise became a top-tier contender, only coming in second to the all-time greatest fighting game that you will never play because you are a coward, Dynasty Warriors 1. Haha, I kid, the real answer is Sonic Fighters. Haha, I kid, the real answer is Psychic Force for the PS1. Haha, I kid, please make this segment stop. Yet aside from being a phenomenal fighter, there was actually another reason why so many of my friends couldn't stop playing Tekken 3, as hidden within this little beauty is an even little beautiful mode called Tekken Ball. In this weird mode, you inflict damage on your opponent not with your fists, but by hitting a giant ball directly into their face, or technically over their head and into their half of the arena. But let's face it, if you're not beating somebody in the face with a giant beach ball, then are you even playing this game properly? It's a fiendishly addictive and deceptively skill-based mode, which honestly is at least as much fun as the traditional fisticuffs, if not more so. Yet it can only be unlocked by first beating the game's arcade mode with all regular non-hidden characters, and given that there's a fair chance that you didn't bother doing this, because after all life is only so long and I have so many Warhammer miniatures to paint that you probably didn't even get to play this game or even unlock it. Though the mode did return for the Wii U version of Tekken Tag Tournament 2, for all the 6 people who bought a Wii U, it's been depressingly absent from the series ever since. So all we can do now is cross our fingers and hope that Tekken 8 will stop yanking my testes and give us a ball instead. Number 9. Multiplayer fighting. Enter the Matrix. Now, Enter the Matrix isn't particularly memorable as licensed video games go. Apart, of course, from that live-action cutscene where Monica Bellucci and Jada Pinkett Smith make out because, after all, I'm only human, after all. Rag and Bone Man, more like Rag and Boner Man. I'll stop. All the same, the best part of the whole package was cloistered away inside the game's hacking menu, where players can access cheat codes, hidden artwork, and a secret 2-player fighting game mode. Once you've figured out the rather laborious rigmarole of accessing the multiplayer, or more likely just using an online guide, you and a pal can take part in a series of one-on-one matchups between the game's various characters. Here you can witness Morpheus take on Agent Smith, or watch Niobe smash the face off of Trinity, or you can take part in a clash of the ages as Phoenix Man takes on Police Car Man. Yes, these are anthropomorphic cars, and yes, I'm about to say what very loudly. What? Though the fighters are pre-selected for each specific map, and there's no playable Neo and it's far from fully fleshed out, for a slight extra it's relatively robust and, more importantly, pretty darn fun. This is very clearly a mode that just didn't get finished in time for release, and yet it's arguably the most enjoyable part of the entire game. Number 8. Doppelganger mode, Devil May Cry 3. Now, Devil May Cry 3 is generally accepted to be the toughest game in the series, and one which players could use all the damn help that they could get. Well, did you know that in DMC 3 that there was actually secretly a multiplayer mode that you and a pal could team up and just take on the forces of evil against? No? Well, I'll tell you. After defeating the late-game boss Doppelganger, players will unlock Doppelganger style, allowing Dante to create a shadow copy of himself, which helpfully mimics his actions in battle. But if you've got a second controller plugged in, a friend can press start on that controller and join in the action as Dante's shadow, meaning that your shadow can provide a more dynamic helping hand until Dante's devil trigger runs out. But the best part is that you can technically play through this entire game 2-player, because there's a secret costume that you can unlock called Super Dante, which gives him unlimited devil trigger mode. Meaning that theoretically, you and a friend could play through the entire game side by shadowy side. Beyond that, a second player can also take control of Virgil when he and Dante team up to fight Arkham a short time later. I know, it's brilliant, right? The more you know. Number 7, the typing of the Skullgirls. Skullgirls Encore. Now if I was trying to describe Skullgirls to somebody who'd never played it before, I would describe it as being wonderfully, delightfully, awesomely weird. And that ethos definitely carries over to the game's secrets because, let me tell you friend, come a little closer, this game has a secret Typing of the Dead spin-off on it. Yeah. Now on the PC version of the game, players who type in the Sonic-inspired cheat code "Gotta Type Fast" during the game's opening publisher credits, well, they will unlock a new mode called the Typing of the Skullgirls. Here, conventional offense won't put a dent in your opponent's life bar. Rather, your super move bar is instantly filled, and the moment you try to execute one, you'll be forced to take part in a timed typing exercise. In the vein of the House of the Dead spin-off, the Typing of the Dead, random words will flash up on screen, which you then need to type in order to determine your attack power, with speed and accuracy being of the utmost importance. When battling a CPU opponent, you'll also need to perform typing exercises in order to reduce the damage of their incoming attacks. All in all, it is probably the last thing that you would probably expect from a fighting video game, but still, it is so awesome and so well done that you've got to commend the team because, yeah, I had a blast doing this. I'm terrible at typing though. Really, really bad. Yeah. It's because I skipped out on all my Mario Teacher's typing lessons. That is how old I am. Number 6, Galactus mode. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Have a big old slurp here, Tommy. Now, superhero video games are inherently concerned with wish fulfillment, with allowing players to bathe in the power fantasy of kicking ass and saving the world as their favourite caped do-gooders. Especially when doing good in this case allows you to widen the nose hole of the likes of the Red Skull, because f*** Nazis. I know, what a controversial statement in 2023. But let's be honest, even punching Nazis can sometimes get a bit tedious. Side note, it never does, but I'm just doing it for the script. After a while, and sometimes we yearn to play as the big bad of the piece, to cast a shadow of terror across the land, or to conquer the world in the name of chaos. Well, you might have missed this, but Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 allowed you to do just that, and did so by offering the chance to play as the planet chewer extraordinaire Galactus, in the aptly titled Galactus mode. Or as I like to call it, Big Hungry Boy Gets Angy. Though the mode was announced pre-release, Capcom didn't make it immediately playable from the jump, rather that you had to accumulate 30,000 player points or have some data from the first edition of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 on your system. As for the mode itself, you're thrown into the oversized shoes of Galactus as he battles a gauntlet of Marvel's finest heroes, using your massive fists to smash the heroes into a fine paste in record time. But hilariously, Galactus is so big that he doesn't actually fit all on the screen, so instead, you're not really playing as him, you're just playing as, like, his fists. Yeah, go Galactus's fists. All the same, it certainly does justice to Galactus' status as an all-timer comic book villain, and serves as a great way to blow off some steam after a tough day at the office. So imagine you've just walked in through the door, you've just chucked your briefcase down, you just sit there and you go like, oh, you know, what's going to cheer me up? Oh yeah, I know, it's going to be smashing MODOK in his big blimp face. Take that, you piece of shit. Have the spine slapped right out of ye. Number 5, Death Tank Zwei. Duke Nukem 3D. If you happen to have your Sega Saturn still sitting around, or at least have access to an emulator, you can find a secret tank combat minigame hidden within the great Duke Nukem 3D. Now I know what you're probably thinking at this point, something hidden in a game as subtle as Duke Nukem 3D, a franchise that is basically as subtle as throwing a brick through somebody's window, but it's got your bank details and your home address on it and a little picture saying, "Come find me, mate." I know it's mad, but so is this little minigame, brother. Indeed, Duke 3D contains Death Tank Zwei, an updated version of the 2D artillery minigame Death Tank, which first appeared as a secret mode in the Saturn port of Power Slave the year prior. Now, accessing it is pretty eccentric though. You either need to have save files for Quake or Power Slave on your Saturn system, both of which were also developed by the adventurously named Lobotomy Software, or just play Duke itself and destroy every water source, namely toilets, throughout the game. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the message was with unlocking it in this method. Are they saying that this minigame is going to get you, drippy, shall we say? Or are they just doing it so that you're destroying all the toilets and it's the developers literally taking the piss out of you in order to unlock this minigame? Either way, Death Tank will then appear on Duke 3D's main menu, a real-time tank warfare adventure where up to 7 players can duke it out, firing missiles all at one another while shellacking the living hell out of the deformable environment. It is a bloody blast, honestly, while providing a bit of reprieve from Duke's decidedly lewder and more juvenile shenanigans. Number 4, the Debug mode, Tenchu Stealth Assassins. Now, fans of the stealth-based Tenchu series have been waiting approximately, let me check my watch here, 15 years for a decent sequel, so I think that it's safe to say that I will be dead and buried in the deep, cold earth long before an official title comes out again. I'm just being honest. But still, if you want to get some more out of the series, why not go back to the 1998 game and access its debug menu? How? Well, I'll tell you how. Shut up, calm down. By entering a cheat code, players are able to access the game's debug menu, which was originally intended to only be accessible by the game's developers. Ooh, so naughty. This menu allows players to tinker with basically every single aspect of the game, such as adding enemies and items to the map, enhancing your inventory, altering AI routines, changing maps, teleporting your character, skipping levels entirely, and even chucks in a bit of necromancy itself because you can come back from the dead. But best of all, you could even assign a second player to control one of the level's enemies for some improvised competitive multiplayer. For anyone lucky enough to hear about Tenchu's debug mode from a gaming magazine or their best mate in the playground, they likely spent way more time arsing around with this than actually playing the game proper. But you know what? I have no regrets. That's a lie. I mean, look at me, of course I do. Number 3, Cheetah Island, Fall Guys. Now, to be completely fair to the peyote huffing experience that is Fall Guys, this mode or secret doesn't actually exist in the game as it stands right now, but for a while, Cheetah's Island was the maddest thing ever, so you need to know about it. Almost immediately after Fall Guys' launch, it was beset by a serious cheating problem, with players manipulating the game's physics to give themselves a leg up over their fellow pellet-shaped rivals. Soon thereafter, developers Mediatonic revealed their short-lived solution to this, taking all of the dedicated cheaters and dumping them into their own lobby, hilariously dubbed Cheetah Island, where they could duke it out in a sort of Cheaters Olympics to determine the best and dirtiest of all the hackers. Yet Mediatonic closed Cheetah Island a short while later, deciding instead to introduce more stringent anti-cheat measures from Epic, resulting in offending players just simply being unable to log in. So let's salute Cheetah Islands, the worst of the best of us, the best of the worst of us. It was so very special. And from all of the leaked videos of people who actually managed to go in there and record some of the shenanigans going on, utter insanity. Insane. Ripperoni. And it's here, Tommy, that I must apply the lip balm. Don't you slow zoom on it, John. Don't you do it. Don't you slow zoom. Don't you put romantic music over it. Don't you put a filter of hearts over it, Tommy. Don't you do it. That's just for you, Tommy. Enjoy. Number 2, Arena Mode, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, as licensed video games go, the 2002 Buffy the Vampire Slayer tie-in was actually, what's the word? It wasn't terrible. It wasn't abysmal. It was, dare I say, good? It certainly helped that the single-player game came boxed with a secret arena mode, which was unlocked by entering a cheat code in the extras menu, which would trigger a demonic scream sound effect. Now, Arena Mode was basically a survival-style minigame where Buffy has to fend off waves of enemies across 4 separate arenas, but better still, a second player could join the fray and take control of Buffy's adversaries. And even more awesome than that, it was possible to transfer this multiplayer functionality into the campaign, with player 2 able to control either one of Buffy's companion characters or her enemies. Though strictly an unofficial inclusion in the game, the multiplayer modes work well enough that the developers probably should have just included them in earnest. And number 1, 3D mode, Prison Architect. And finally, we have the deliriously, compulsively addictive Prison Architect, a top-down 2D prison construction sim which compensates for its rather so-so pedestrian visuals with an impressively deep time sink of a building system. Now, roughly 6 months after the game's 2015 release, however, enterprising players began discovering the existence of a hidden 3D mode. allowing them to explore their prisons in 3 full-ish dimensions, bar some trickier objects which are still rendered flat as a pancake. But it is rather sneakily hidden though, because you have to go to the game's extras menu and find a tiny wee pie icon and click on it. But you know what? We've actually included some of that in today's video today, so let's see if you can find it. I'll give you 5 seconds, because I'm a pretty busy man, so here we go. Oh, I can see the cursor going. Oh, get close. Warm up. There you go. Ew. But if you click this, you'll be given 3D access to the game, making it feel just a little bit more alive in the process. In this mode, you can almost smell the gruel that passes for food here. You can really feel the misery of all of your prisoners. Tastes like oppression. And you know what, friends? What has to come next? Prison Architect VR. Make it happen, am I right? Or don't, because games as a live service definitely feel like games as a life sentence at this point in time, so I think we're okay. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 secret video game modes that you need to play. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on the social medias over here, where it's @RetroJ, but the O is a 0. And you can follow Tommy on the social medias over here as well. I've been seeing you, Tommy. You've not been putting up your social medias. You better put them in the bloody video this time, mate. People want to follow you. But before I go, I just want to say one thing to you, my friend watching at home. There is a little hidden mode that we can all access each and every day, and that is just by being kind to ourselves. And why is that? Well, because you deserve love, happiness, and success, like every human being on this planet. And do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You are a massive ledge, and you deserve the bloody best, all right? As always, I've been Jules. This has been the Future Game Show. I'll see you here next Friday for another exciting, silly episode. But until then, peace. Bye. See ya. Get out of here. Get out. Get out of here. I've had enough. No.